And I believe it is your intro.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Remind podcast. My name's Dr. Ashleigh Moreland and I am joined by my awesome co-host, David Masterton. Last episode, we spoke about, oops, I set it again, the New Year's resolutions that just seem to keep coming on. Yep. Every year they keep coming around. So what are we talking about today? With New Year's resolutions, quite often we can get stuck in this mindset of feeling like we are missing out. We're missing out on the fun. We're missing out on the treats. We're missing out on the extra sleep or whatever it is that we're missing out on. So I wanted to chat about the joy of missing out, the JOMO, instead of living life from FOMO.
Okay. It's a bit of a mind bend, isn't it? Because fear of missing out, it's sort of like scarcity mindset.
Totally.
So it's sort of like, I've got to do it because what if there's nothing left?
Yeah.
Where the joy of missing out, it's sort of like you're happy to see it all sort of go in front of it. Like you'll be happy to miss out. That's an interesting one. But I suppose you could sort of clarify it as, you know, someone's dishing out abuse. I'll happily miss out on that. But gee, it's a mind bend, isn't it? Because normally,
plate of ice cream, maybe not so happily miss out.
Well, yeah, I mean that's absolute FOMO. It's like if you know, you sort of see things coming into a restaurant, and let's just say you're doing the table sharing, and you have all these things coming, and you sort of, oh, that dish is like really good, and then you're sort of there going, I'll be gentle and I'll be slow, but oh wow. Versus going to a buffet. Or you go to a buffet and there's like 3 things left and you go, what?
Yeah.
But the joy of missing out, I kind of get it. It's still a bit of a mind melt. But yes, stuff you want to miss out. Like, one thing that does come to mind, Hunger Games, right? Reason being, it's sort of like when you hear the word lottery, what do you think? Ooh, I would love to win that. Then suddenly someone in the Hunger Games goes, well, this is a lottery you do not want to win.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess it's along those lines. I think as I'm self-processing, I think that's kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because so FOMO has been something I've been personally navigating. And I realized that FOMO has had such a deep grip, like a stronghold, a deep undertone in my life, right down to, I think I might have mentioned this previously, but like I can know that alcohol is a neurotoxin and it's not good for any single cell of my body. There is nothing good that it does for my physical body, my physical health and well-being. But in some circumstances, I can drink or I can not drink and be super at peace. I'll be like, yep, I'm so at peace. But then when there's certain criteria, all of a sudden, FOMO kicks in. And it's like the desire and the knowledge and all of the wisdom and all of the rationality that it's a neurotoxin, it's not good for me and yada, yada, yada. All of that almost will just go out the window because the FOMO takes the wheel of the bus and, takes over. So what are some of the criteria? Well, if it's a 35-degree day, sun's out, been on the river, fishing, maybe with friends, you've been having a big outdoors day, the refreshing, delicious taste of an ice cold beer, if you're into beer, or cider or something, right? So that was really interesting. And even just last night, something funny came up for me because I am doing 75 hard and my husband came home from work and he walked in the door and he was like, I think I'm getting sick. And I was like, okay. He went and laid on the bed and I went in and I said, what do you need? Do you need me to make you food? Do you need me to just be with you? Do you want me just to put my hand on you and sit here and you can have a little nap? Anyway, he said, what have we got food-wise? And I gave him the options, and he said, I'd really love some sausage and sweet potato casserole on toast.
Mm.
Now, we almost never have gluten bread or anything in our house.
Gotcha.
Right now. We have some gluten bread that's been left over from a barbecue that we recently had. And I grilled up, because I can't use the toaster because I've got celiac kids. So I grilled up the old school slow way some toast for my husband. And it was golden and it was smelling good. And then I spread the butter on it and it was melting, and the more the butter melted and the more that smell just wafted into my nose, my mouth started salivating.
Stop it.
My mouth was salivating. And it was so interesting to almost observe that conflict inside of me of going, oh my gosh, I want that so bad. And it's so weird because like it's toast. It's nothing special. But I was saying to my husband, and you'll be very pleased to know that I did not give in to the toast.
Right.
But I was saying to my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so intense. Like you have no idea. The association of the smell and the experience of toast is so comforting for me. It's like, I don't know, it's a hug. It feels so comforting.
Well, it's like the start of the day. It's like what you used to do, like that smell of fresh start.
Yeah. And I don't know, like it reminds me of my grandmother used to like baking the bread, and it transports me to another time and space where I'm cozy and I'm cared for and I'm nurtured, and it's weird, right? But this is how our mind works through association. And anyway, when I was sitting there reflecting while I was eating my very healthy meal, I was sitting there reflecting and I was like, what gift did I give myself when I said no to that? And I really shifted my mind, and I set my mind onto what were the gifts that I just gave myself by choosing to eat my healthy meal and not give in to the toast. And it was really interesting because it was things like the consequences would last days because I don't process gluten very well at all. Okay. So I would have had tummy pains, would have probably been bloated. There would have been that sense of abandonment of self because it's not supporting my goals, nor is it supportive of my health. And the more that I sat there and really set my mind on the gift that I had given myself by choosing to not have the toast, the more I was like, that was really loving. I loved myself so well just then.
Because it's temporary, right? Because I think, and I think we've talked about food in the past as well, in the last episode. But I think when we talk about food, and I know we're going slightly off topic, but things like toast, for me, energy drinks at the moment, alcohol, all these other things or something deep fried, or something that's just like tastes really good and all of that. My mouth's watering. David, stop it. I find I'm either feeding my mouth and brain, right? Because these two are absolutely in cahoots with each other.
Absolutely saying,
right?
Yes,
absolutely,
eat it.
Absolutely. But it's these two, brain and mouth versus body. And so a bit like what you sort of went through, it's that thing where the toast smells great. It's nostalgic. It then starts to generate some really nice feelings. And obviously the brain's going mad and the mouth's going, hey, remember what it tastes like? And we can just feel the crunch and then the butter and then the David, stop it. And then it hits the body and the body's like, thanks, guys. Great. For that momentary stuff that you went through, I'm now going to have to process this for the next 3 days. Well done. And I've also found for a large part of what I eat, it's either feeding brain and mouth or body. Because generally when I'm feeding the body, my body works best when it's bland as hell. And, again, carbs is a bit of a no-go. So it's one or the other. So I suppose that sort of, when we talk about joy of missing out, it's probably reframing the fact that you have missed out on everything your brain and your mouth was sort of saying, great.
Yep.
But the joy is the long-term consequences.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when I think about FOMO, it's normally around sort of that, I've heard from investors, right? Because this comes down to money. There's two ways to motivate people, through fear or greed, right? And they're two incredible motivators. So generally FOMO is around the fact that either, say, stocks, when a stock's going bananas and up, people don't want to miss out on the fact they can buy it at a cheaper price, because as it's going up, everyone's piling in and it keeps on going up and up and up and up and up and up. Or we all experienced it around 2020 when wiping your bottom with toilet paper was seen to be a luxury. So everyone's going in and buying 50 million rolls of toilet paper. Maybe not everyone, but broadly. But so for me, that FOMO has been about there's a limited something, even though there's multiple of it, but it's limited and the demand's so much higher. And then it's being able to control, well, hang on, am I going to be okay? Do I trust I will have everything that I need? Do I need 3 months supply of toilet paper? Do I trust others around me? Or, especially with, money, what goes up must come down eventually, let's not talk about inflation because that's baked in well and truly, not financial advice. And so to be able to sit back and go, and again, where I get my biggest FOMO is generally around things where it's sort of like, is someone else going to take the last one and am I going to miss out? Yeah. And normally when I'm feeling FOMO, there's this one magic word that appears at the end of this thought process. Is there going to be something left for me or am I going to miss out? And then the final word is again.
Interesting.
And so for me personally, whenever I feel the FOMO, it's actually attached with these things where I've missed out on something. And then that replays and replays and replays and replays. So I'm not just dealing with missing out on this thing. It's the fact that I'm being targeted again.
Yeah. It's unjust.
Yep. Absolutely. It's unfair. Mm-hmm. And again, someone else is going to get one up over me. Someone else is going to get the last one. Someone else, I'm going to get left on the bench again. Or it's going to be this or that or something else. So to switch that around and go, I am so glad I missed out on that is hugely empowering.
Yeah.
However, it requires a whole lot of work and healing to get to that point.
Yep.
Because
I totally
otherwise,
feel
you to be able to sit back and go, and I guess this goes hand in hand with rejection is protection and redirection.
Yeah.
So to be able to be grateful for JOMO, you have to celebrate rejection.
Yeah. And I feel like you have to be grounded in faith. Like, not to get too Christianese here, but I feel for me, my journey with FOMO has become increasingly easier the more I lean into everything always works out for my good. And if I'm missing out on this opportunity right this moment, then it's for me. And I'll give you a really silly example. So in our business, I was super excited about hiring an instructional designer. So an instructional designer is someone who has expertise in pedagogy, designing and developing learning experiences and all that sort of stuff, right?
Okay.
And we had hired this person, all the contracts were done, we'd done all the onboarding, and then he just went MIA. literally just went MIA. And the first day I heard nothing and I was like, oh, that's so weird. Maybe he didn't get my message. So I sent an email. And then by the Monday, I still hadn't heard back. Anyway, it turned out, to cut a long story short, it turned out that he had actually taken a job with someone else for more money and had blocked us on all of the platforms, didn't communicate with us, had blocked us on everything. And
bullet dodge there.
Right. And it was so interesting, though, to observe what came up in me, because I had an awareness of that feeling of FOMO, of going, oh, but we're missing out. And I was so excited to have him. And now there's this gaping hole and like all this stuff. But then equally, when I look at the faith side of that, I go straight into thank you so much for closing the door that wasn't right for me. Even though I wanted what was on the other side of the door, even though I liked the idea of that, even though the fantasy I had built up in my head and my will was that he was going to do wonderful things and it was such a blessing and all this sort of stuff. I was like, man, thank you so much for closing the door that's not right for us. Because how awesome is it that we got to see that like 3 days in instead of 3 months in or 3 years in, and how much of a more entangled mess and cultural, poison that kind of attitude and heart posture could have caused to our business. And that was a real embodied moment of the joy of missing out on that opportunity and going, thank you so much.
Okay, because it sounds like from an academic and experience level, perfect match.
Yeah.
From a values and behaviours point of view, absolute F+, right? Failed completely.
Yeah.
And I guess when we sort of, dodged a bullet, it's sometimes hard to see. And I agree with you 100%. And, if you're Christian and you sort of, faith-wise, I think it still translates into being, just believing in the concept of whatever's for you will not pass you by.
Yep.
And so when you can believe that, because a lot of people, me included, will believe it when we see it.
Yeah.
As we're trying to follow this path, the fake it till you make it, and doing little bits and sort of healing. But to honestly be in the energy of knowing, regardless of what's being presented around you, that whatever you're meant for, it's going to happen. And so like with me, recently sold my house, continue following my passion, doing my journey, going to go into renting, knowing that the right place will come to me. And however, there's time pressures because you got to go from being out of this house into something else. And there was this one place which I know I would get. It was the perfect size, but it was a place that had been lived in by a number of other people sharing a house and was very unloved. It was a great price, size-wise was great, and I knew I would get it because, again, it's a bit foreign for me going from ownership into renting because you really are treated differently. You buy a house, there's red carpet, they're everywhere, right? You go to rent, what's your name? Okay. We'll get back to you. So part of me is sort of like, I really need to lock something down to have certainty. So my FOMO was into, I fear I'm going to miss out on finding the right place.
Yeah.
In the right time, because the time's just marching along. Settlement date is not changing. It's just boom, 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 but everything else. But every time I think about this house, and I know logically it's a good bet, I was getting an ick.
Wow.
There was the ick.
Yeah.
And then the brain sort of going, well, maybe the ick is because I could feel the place was unloved. And the brain's going, well, maybe we could do this, or maybe we could do that, and maybe we could try and justify that, and maybe we could, the benefits around it, like the brain's
classic
searching for certainty. Yep. But the brain was really going for the pros. Yeah. And then every time I'd think about it, the ick, oh my God, the ick was there, and I just sort of had to say no.
Yeah.
And still in that that sense. So, but again, it's that feeling of, all right, what's going to happen? And I think it's really certainty. So I guess what I'm trying to say is FOMO can happen with things, with money, with possessions, but it can also happen with, I really don't want to miss out on certainty, on feeling cared for or feeling loved.
Or
So
not feeling alone, like
correct.
this connection.
It's like, and you could imagine you diving into a relationship and you got a bit of an ick. But it's like, but I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
But then there's that ick. And then your brain goes into, but is he or she's a nice guy? They're a nice person.
It's
they
not
do this.
like they hit me.
Well,
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that.
Okay.
It's not like they hit me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, the bar has been set at a very interesting level at that point.
Well, that was me as well. Like,
Jesus.
I literally used to say that. And 100% FOMO kept me in a marriage that wasn't right for me because I was afraid that I would miss out on that company and the validation of knowing that I wasn't alone. And it's better to have someone than to have no one, right? Even if the someone that you've got's not right for you. But in hindsight, it's very easy to see the joy that came in missing out on the someone when they're the wrong person.
Oh, yeah. Because here's the thing. When you get the ick with the intuition, right? The intuition, for you to follow intuition, it requires faith or belief, whatever it is, either in a greater thing or in yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's literally nothing in front of you to validate it. You've got the ick or you've got the ooh, right?
Yeah.
So you have to go through with it without the validation. But what does the brain do? Because it's that kind of fear response. It's trying to keep you alive. It's going through the logic. How's it going through the logic? It's what I know. See, smell, touch.
Yeah.
It's all
the analysis.
right? And it's going, better the devil you know.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yep.
And so the joy of missing out, and I think this is like, for me at least, it's collapsing into joy of missing out does not happen without faith or belief.
I agree with you. And I think the very fact, just I didn't come into this conversation with this awareness, but just as we're chatting, I think it makes sense because joy is a fruit of the spirit. Fear is a fruit of the flesh. And so when we're over-identified in our flesh state and we're little, and I can literally feel in that state of fear and FOMO, it's like my energy comes all the way up here and the energy is all around my head and my shoulders come up and my heart rate comes up and everything comes up. And I can even imagine, this is going to be a really silly example, but like go to 7-Eleven where it sells all the Krispy Kreme donuts, and when you want a donut, but there's all the different flavors, and then you stand there and they all look good, and then it's overwhelming because you're like, I don't know which one to choose. And then the FOMO kicks in, the fear of missing out on a good one, so you have to get all of the good ones, and then okay.
Yeah, can I get 2 dozen assorted, thanks?
Right?
And then you get home, it's worth it.
Totally. And I can't tell you how many like food binges I have had in my life that were purely ended up binges because of the FOMO and the inability to make a decision and have a treat instead of the overwhelm of not being able to know, not making the right choice. I think that's what it really came down to for me, because I know you said again, so there's like that little bit of wounding around missing out before.
100%.
But for me, I feel like I've just had a massive revelation as we're talking about the pressure to get it right, the pressure to make the right choice. And what happens if I choose that, but the other choice was better and the one that I got wasn't as good?
Well, I mean,
Wow,
and now we've got
that's so-
comparison. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now we've got comparison, because you've got this thing, when you make a choice and you've got a fork in the road and you walk down one part of the road, then there's going to be that sense of, well, what was the experience of the other one?
Yeah.
If you're constantly doing that, then it's sort of like, well, you're never really going to know.
Yes.
So then suddenly you're going to have this sort of paralysis where you're standing at the Y of the intersection,
Yeah.
going, which way do I go?
Have we done an episode that comparison's the thief of joy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's really bringing that to the surface for me. I think you've just hit the nail on the head, Dave. It is. Because comparison is the thief of joy. And we're talking about how do we access the joy of missing out? Well, delete the comparison. Focus on what you've got instead of what you don't have when you make that choice. And I think I was describing that with the meal last night, right?
Oh, 100%.
I was describing the effect of focusing on what I got and what I have instead of focusing on the thing that I couldn't have. And it took me out of fear into joy.
Yeah, well, because I think there's definitely two different sensations. Sorry, I got a really itchy ear today. The different feeling, and the one that I've mostly been in, is, let's just say in a parallel universe, Ash decided, I'm going to have a piece of toast, right? Enjoyed it for 30 seconds it would have been in your mouth chewing, and all of that. And then suddenly the regret at some point will kick in as the stomach and all of that happens. And so we're mostly used to feeling the regret of something. And so, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring some sort of, I don't want to say peace because that's the wrong word, but some sort of reward to that desire that was brought in through that sort of, we'll say, FOMO. However, we won't get that if we follow the JOMO. Because if the JOMO comes from the intuitive nudge, then that will be rooted in peace.
Yeah.
And so we don't get to go back and go, well, hang on. Here's the thing. Again, when you have the belief and you're listening to your intuition, and what is for me will never pass me by, the joy is that peace that you get. As opposed to, but what if you won't know. However, there's a reason why you're following your intuition.
Yeah.
Because when you have that faith in your intuition, then you become less interested on the other side, because you are just following what's intuitively there for you, because your intuition doesn't make you question yourself.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? Because it's the only thing that is real. It's the only thing that's there. It's the only thing that's right in front of you. What I'm imagining is like choosing, like recognizing that you are needing a night in, a quiet night in, and then making that choice and having that quiet night in. And in the absence of knowing of anything else, having a really lovely night. A restorative night. Maybe you've had a bath. Maybe you've read a book. Maybe you snuggled up and had a cup of tea. But whatever you've done, it's been a really, really soul-nourishing night. But then you jump on social media and then you see the friends and what they've been up to and those happy snaps and all the stuff that they're doing and what their night looked like. And instead of being able to remain anchored in the joy of the night that you just got to experience, we jump out of that into that fear of, because you've now got something to compare it to. It's so true. If I went into a 7-Eleven and all they had was one type of donut, I could very easily get one donut and enjoy every bite of it. But the very fact that I don't know...
Would you? Because the gluten...
No. Well, this is the thing. I'm using this as an example. Ice cream shop is another perfect example for me. Because this is actually another interesting one. Every single human is a creature of habit. We seek certainty and we seek that. And so if I go into an ice cream shop, I know that I love. I've never had a bad experience with salted caramel ice cream. And it's the same with choc mint. Love choc mint ice cream. They would be my choices, right? but I still go into an ice cream shop, walk in, and it's like I have this battle in my mind of going, well, should I try something different? Because what if I try something different and it's actually better than the other one? I don't want to.
What if it's worse?
But what if it's worse? And then I get irrationally angry at the ice cream shops that don't allow you to taste test.
Yeah. So how did you enjoy your salted caramel ice cream?
Well, so here's the thing, right? So then I find myself in this battle of going, why do I feel like I need to even try the other flavors when I know that if I'm going to go and have ice cream, I can get a salted caramel ice cream, which is my special thing that I enjoy. Enjoy, really love. I've never had a bad experience. It's just trusty, faithful deliciousness. If I went in with the decision of I am going in here with the joy of missing out on what I don't know, on what I haven't tasted, on all of those other missed opportunities, and I'm going to be happy and content with the one that I know will please me well.
So I'm going to associate that in the case of it's the fear of adventure. Because for me, if I'm feeling particularly fruity, and I've done it several times, I will just be in a mindset of I want to go on an adventure. Even if it's like if I'm walking into an ice cream shop with the kids and they'll say, what would you like? And I've already predetermined in my head, I'll ask them, what's your favourite? And whatever they say, I'm going to have. Just for the hell of it. Because again, it's that kind of, it's not sort of being this whole thing where you're giving up your, your sovereignty or giving, like it's all like a, randomized, you're not taking any control of your life. But it's leaning into those things to sort of go, well, maybe I'm meant to try something new, but I don't know what it is. And I don't actually care to make a decision around it. It'll be what it will be. So I'll ask them and that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I've had some interesting combinations and loved it.
And I love that. Because the certainty came from the decision to lean into the uncertainty of your choice.
Adventure.
By letting someone else make that choice. I think that's so important, isn't it? I love that. This has been such an eye-opening conversation, even just for me to kind of explore how JOMO and FOMO play out and the difference between the flesh versus the soul. And yes, fascinating. So
for those who do have FOMO with the Remind podcast, the best way to handle that is to like and subscribe, bell notifications, and you'll never miss out on an episode.
That's right. Absolutely. And I was going to say, what would be your biggest takeaway from our conversation today for our listeners?
FOMO is head-driven. It's logic.
Yeah.
JOMO is intuitive and belief-driven.
Yes.
So if you wanted to attach head-driven and fear together, or the possibility of fear, then that's driven. So if you're wanting to experience more JOMO and you've got literally no idea of how to make the first step, it's not necessarily making a beeline to the JOMO. It's looking at, what do you believe you're entitled to? What do you believe you're worth? What do you believe is for you? And if that comes back from a very sort of, let's just say, a very nervous, a very dark, a very negative place, that is finding why wouldn't you believe what is for you will never miss you? And for me, it's sort of like, because I'm going to get looked over again. Some other quit is going to take it away from me. Some other person is going to get picked over me. And yet again, I'm just going to have to lick my wounds and do it again.
Yeah.
And so the answer for me started that way. Your answer might be different, but that's the key takeaway for me with JOMO versus FOMO.
Yeah, I love that. I think the thing that stood out for me was, and I was really feeling it in a tangible way, was just to come back into your body. Come back into your body. And I'm even literally sitting here thinking, I could record a voice memo on my phone so that almost like a little bit of a guided meditation, a guided process, that when I am in that intense feeling of I'm not even in my body anymore and I'm really feeling the intensity of that drive to abandon myself and make a choice that doesn't align to my goals, that I could simply just press play and go remind myself to help come back into my body.
Yeah.
And question and just inquire of that part of me that feels that need to go after something based off nothing but an association from the past, and seeking that source of comfort and familiarity rather than coming back into my body and anchoring into the fruits of the Spirit.
Love it.
Very cool.
Till next week. Thank you everyone for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.